Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show. So, this is Dr. Sandeep Shastri, leading political scientist in Karnataka. And they have come out with their survey for the all-crucial Karnataka. Dr. Shastri, if I have to begin with, state is not in transition. There's no chance of hung house. Why has the poll numbers thrown up these kind of numbers?
You see, it's important to emphasize that this survey was done in the second week of April, between the 13th and 18th of April. Now, what this JAIN Lokniti survey projects is the situation in Karnataka as on 13th to 18th April. You see? So, if you look at that point of time, which is around 1 month before the actual date of voting, the situation seems to be that there is a tight contest between the Congress and the BJP. Now, I would still go back to the point I made to you earlier that I do not see a transition in Karnataka, therefore I do not see a hung assembly in Karnataka. And my argument is, in the 3 weeks which are left before the voting, this position that we saw in the second week of April is likely to change. I would argue either in favor of the Congress or the BJP, depending on how this campaign actually pans out. So I think these 3 weeks are crucial for both the Congress and the BJP to really pull out all stops and go forward. And I think the different factors that would play a role are important in deciding who seems to really have an advantage.
So it's very clear it's either going to be the BJP or the Congress, and if it's not a hung house, then JDS is not a player. What has changed over the years for the JDS? I mean, they used to be kingmakers for a long time.
You see, previously when you had a hung house, you had a situation where one party was in the 80s and 90s, and the other two parties were more or less equal, much below. See, the second and third were very close and very distant from the first. Now, even the projections which JAIN Lokniti has done as of April 2nd week, it does not show that trend. It shows two who are likely to be in their 90s and one who is likely to be in the 30s. See, so the situation, even if you talk of an assembly without a clear majority, is very different. Let's also remember that the projection is that there may be at least 7 to 8 independents. So the fact that if you have a significant chunk of independents, and even if I assume that no party gets a clear majority, if a party is in the mid and late 90s, it does not require too much of effort to be able to inch towards that majority mark. The challenge comes where the biggest party is stuck in the 80s and the quantum of seats that you need to push yourself forward is significantly higher. Going back to your question about the Janata Dal, the survey shows that the Janata Dal continues to be an important force in southern Karnataka. It's kept the Congress at second position and not allowed the BJP to really make inroads into the state. And as a result, the Janata Dal is doing well in southern Karnataka, but then it's doing well only in southern Karnataka. The competition is largely between the Congress and BJP in other parts, squeezing out the Janata Dal from the competition. That's why the poll estimates that the Janata Dal is likely to be stuck in the early or late 30s.
So another crucial election that which never misses anyone's discussion is the Lingayat issues. And your poll clearly shows that it's not really worked wonders for the Congress. The Lingayats saying that it looks like an attempt to divide, or it's a political one. Were you expecting this?
No. I'll make a slight departure from what you said. Our poll shows that the support of the Lingayat community does not seem to have changed significantly in percentage terms as compared to 2013. If you bring together the KJP, BJP, BSR Congress vote, what was the Lingayat vote split among these three in 2013 seems to have consolidated a little more. That the Congress would have hoped for a wedge or a break in this monolith going towards the BJP. And even if a small percentage of that were to come away, it would have been to their advantage. Now, what our poll is showing is, rather than Lingayat vote coming away to the Congress, if you compare to 2013, around 3% is going away from the Congress.
Right.
Why? Now, it's interesting. The Lingayat community, a big chunk of it says this is a good move. You see?
Yes, correct.
Separate religion status is a good move.
Right.
It's a good move. However, we will vote for the BJP.
BJP,
You see?
yes.
So, I'm reminded of when Andhra and Telangana were bifurcated, people said to the Congress, thank you for doing it, but we are not voting for you. You see? So, the Congress, that's why we have said in our article, it seems to backfire. They hoped that this will lead to a wedge in the Lingayat vote and bring a section of the Lingayat vote to their side. Unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which side you stand, as in April second week, it's not happening. And there's one more trend that's coming up. Now, because the Congress is seen as giving this special concession to the Lingayats, the Vocaligas seem to be a little unhappy about this. And while a bulk of the, I think our poll shows around 50% of the Vocaliga vote is with the Janata Dal, the balance is actually going more to the BJP than to the Congress.
In fact, that was my next question.
So therefore, not only are you not getting the Lingayat vote, you are also losing out on the other dominant caste vote, which is the Vocaliga vote. While I think, and what's working to the advantage of the Congress is the continued support of the non-dominant OBCs. That seems to be the only thing, that seems to be a saving grace for them in that sense.
So the percentage of the minority votes, which Congress would have hoped 100% at least on that. I mean, do you see that it's also split in because of the MIM and MEP?
Okay, let me try and explain that. A huge chunk, I think if our survey is right, around 60+% of the minority vote is going for the Congress as per our estimate. Now, if you look at the balance, I personally do not think it's because of these small parties that are emerging. I think the Muslim community in various pockets does strategic voting, and I think there's nothing wrong in that. Basically looking at who they think would be able to protect their interests in a particular constituency. So when they feel that the Congress is not in a position to really protect their interests, possibly because of the political weakness of the Congress / its candidate in that constituency, it could well be that the Muslim community decides to support another candidate other than the Congress, simply from the perspective of being able to protect their interests. It's also interesting that our poll shows a double-digit support exists for the BJP among the Muslim community. And many would argue this is a trend you are seeing in other parts of the country also, that the Muslim community feels that in terms of stability, in terms of other factors, maybe the BJP is also okay. So I think it's more in terms of who can protect their interests, which becomes the critical factor to decide the direction they would like to go.
And also, I read another, is that, and that is, these are issues which are pertinent only to, the city.
This is a response across rural and urban Karnataka, and actually gaining much more currency in the small towns and cities. You see, in the district headquarters and other smaller towns in the state. Especially these two dimensions, the one on should Karnataka have its own flag, state flag, that support for that. Another point which you didn't mention, which is Tipu Sultan a hero of Karnataka? And big chunk says yes. Now on the signpost thing, there's an interesting trend. More people support signposts. Of course, they say it should be in Kannada. Other than Kannada, the second language which they support, there is more support for English than for Hindi.
Yes.
You see, a larger percentage say English is okay with Kannada. A lesser percentage say Hindi is okay with Kannada. And For me, I think to a certain extent what's happening, and I think these are the early signs of that coming up,
Yes.
that the attitude towards Hindi does not so much represent an attitude towards the language, but represents an attitude towards what that language represents,
Yes.
or the political domination that that language represents. And I think Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has very, very cleverly and strategically, I think in his campaign, used this factor, where he has said on 2 occasions, I can immediately recall, one, this whole question of South is subsidizing the North.
Correct.
And 2, if you notice, when the BJP General Secretary came out with a tweet in Hindi,
Yes.
he immediately responded saying, sir, I don't follow Hindi, please put it in English and Kannada. So I think it's a very subtle way of making a point, and there is this general feeling that while the BJP has been very strong on Kannada, the local unit at least, there is this feeling that Hindi as representing North India culture, language domination is something that I will not say is unwelcome in the South. It's not a question of being unwelcome, but there is a little element of apprehension that what does this represent in terms of domination.
Domination, yes. So initially, I mean, when the poll process just started, there was a lot of talk whether BJP announced its chief ministerial candidate too soon, and by the time a lot of people realized, said now it's too late to back off. But your poll shows that they're pretty close by in terms of popularity. What has picked up for Yediyurappa? I mean,
see, there are 2 ways of looking at it. 12 months ago, when BJP was wanting to challenge the Congress, remember the announcement of Siddaramaiah leading the Congress campaign
yes.
came a few hours before the BJP announcement of their, formal announcement of their chief ministerial candidate. So I think what happened was BJP was playing a catch-up game, you see. They did not want to lose out on the momentum with the Congress having formally announced that Siddaramaiah will lead their campaign. At that point of time, if you look around the state BJP, Mr. Yediyurappa seemed to be the only option at that point of time to be able to galvanize the party, and he appeared to be the tallest leader in that sense at the state level. Now, having nominated him, if reports are to be believed, he was also counseled that now that you are the chief ministerial candidate, you need to now rise above factionalism, take everybody with you, change your style. And a lot of people would argue that that did not happen to the extent it should. You see, as time progressed, his critics believed that he was still a faction leader and was not taking everybody along with him. Plus, you also have the fact that in the last election, he campaigned vigorously against the BJP.
Yes.
And a lot of the embarrassment that the BJP faced between 2008 and 13, people would argue, is linked to his leadership. So all those factors were there. Now, I think the rating of the chief minister at 25% is linked to, of course, his support within the party and among the BJP supporters. But I think it's also driven by the support for the party. You see, when somebody says I am a committed BJP voter, by default, that support for the BJP translates itself into support for the BJP's chief ministerial candidate. So, while I would not want to underestimate Mr. Yediyurappa's leadership capacities, I think the boost that he is getting now is also linked to the fact that the party, the support that the party enjoys, and by party I mean several factors including national leadership and all that, is in some ways contributing to the support that the chief ministerial candidate enjoys.
Right. So that's what it is. So finally, sir, final question, Modi is coming starting May 1. You must have read reports of, Modi's carpet bombing of 16 rallies in 8 days. How much of a factor do you think that will play for the BJP in the last one? You've given 85 to 95 for BJP. Do you see that number going up?
See, the BJP hopes that that will make the difference. If you talk to any BJP leader, they would tell you, our campaign has not yet begun. They would say the real campaign is when Mr. Modi comes. So I think they are putting all their eggs in that one basket, hoping that he will push it through. Now, I think there is truth in the argument that if they were to go forward from where they are, that is the factor. There is no shadow of doubt on that. But then I think it's difficult to say, will it actually be a reality? And what are the imponderables there? I think nobody denies the fact that the Prime Minister is an excellent communicator. The Prime Minister sees himself as the head of the campaign. There is no doubt on that issue also. And he is greatly supported by the party president, who is an excellent election manager. I think this has been time and again proved. But I think there are two factors which people will watch specifically in Karnataka. Factor number one. This would be the first assembly election in a non-Hindi speaking state, especially south of the Vindhyas. That Mr. Modi's capacity to be able to sway voters in a campaign will be seen. In the north and the west, Hindi is a language which is very well understood, not only in terms of the broad points, but also in its subtle nuances. So it became possible for Mr. Modi to connect with the potential supporters. That emotional connect he was able to establish. Now the question is, in the south, when he does use that same language to communicate, will it result in that same emotional appeal? Yeah. Or, as I often ask the question, will emotions get lost in translation? You see? Yeah. I said this will be an important test in the south. And the second important test is, this is an election when Mr. Modi comes after being in power for 4 years. You see. And at this stage, the excitement and the euphoria that you saw in 2014 and 15 is not really as high as it was. Today, a lot of people are asking questions about the electoral promises of 2014. Because if you look at our survey also, 3 critical concerns of citizens was price rise, unemployment and corruption. And at least on 2 of these, the central government will have some uncomfortable questions to face on the question of price rise, on the question of employment. So it will be interesting to see how these issues are addressed and whether the apparent drop in popularity of the government, I'm not saying it has fallen, but then there is clearly a perceptible drop in the enthusiasm and popularity. Now, will that be reflected in the response to the Prime Minister? That I think is something the election will show.
So finally, in case of a hung house, who do you see the JDS going with?
It depends. If we have a hung house, it depends, A, who is at the top and how close is that top to 113. You see? Now, if the BJP were to be, and I'm saying BJP because alphabetically B comes before C. If BJP is the first among the 2, I think the third factor which would come in is how many independents are there. You see, if either the BJP or Congress are in the top fold, I think appealing to the independents and bringing them is much easier than convincing the Janata Dal to be able to support us. Now, if independents are not enough, then in the case of the BJP, if they have to seek the support of the Janata Dal, they have worked earlier with the Janata Dal. The Janata Dal also will weigh the options of its national politics. Would it want to be a part of a front which is today emerging as an anti-BJP front? If they would, they may be a little cautious in terms of supporting the BJP. But if their calculation is their advantage is much more if you were to join hands with the BJP, maybe the JDS patriarch has a chance to make his elder son the deputy chief minister. You see, one son has been chief minister, he could be told to wait, the other son could be made deputy chief minister, because I don't think the BJP would concede the chief ministership at this stage to the JDS. Now, if the Congress were to be in the highest position, theoretically a Congress-JDS alliance seems eminently possible, because you have been in power in BBMP also, and it suits the possible national ambitions of the JDS also. You see. But then there is a huge thorn in the flesh, and that is the Chief Minister of the Congress, who, as you know, has come from the Janata Dal, and I think one fundamental condition the Janata Dal would put to be able to be part of an alliance is that the Chief Minister should have nothing to do or no position in that. Now, would the Congress concede to that? And there are, of course, a lot of other Congress leaders who are looking at that possibility and also already building bridges and thinking of that situation coming up. So I think if you have an assembly where nobody has a majority, who is on top is important, and how close are they to 113 is important.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure.